guys, welcome back to my channel. I just thought I'd do this video just to talk you through my sort of history of collecting Hot Toys and 1/6 scale figures. I started off in 2009 with the Christopher Reeve Superman after a friend had suggested, after he was collecting Hot Toys in the early days and showed me this figure. And yeah, from there it's becoming, well, an obsession, as a lot of people know. Collecting 1/6 scale, it can be quite a addictive hobby. So I thought I'd just talk you through some of my old photos quickly, just to show you the mistakes I've made and the sort of pickups that I've done throughout the years, because as you can see, and you'll see throughout these videos, there's a lot of changes. Even in this video here, you can see that I started off with loads of different lines. I didn't concentrate on one thing, just went for nostalgia with a lot of my old 80s favourites, but then the Marvel MCU came out, so I started collecting that, and then I saw Dexter, and then I wanted to collect that. I think with collecting in the early days, for me, a lot had to do with what film came out, and what was in at the time, the buzz sort of movies and things like that. Example in this photo with like Superman, the Man of Steel, but then still collecting, you know, Dark Knight and everything like that. So for me, when I look back on these old videos, I find my collection quite messy and don't really have a purpose or a sort of line that I wanted to sort of concentrate on. It's quite hard, and it actually took me quite a few years to sort of find my way really on what I wanted to collect. It was quite hard, like sort of looking at other people's collections and trying to keep up with them, and perhaps even buying stuff that you don't really want, but because it was an in figure you wanted to get it. For example, here I sold a lot up and went for quarter scales, which I don't regret, because I've not seen that scale in person before. And to be honest, as you'll see by this next picture, I mean, these were great. Like, that's the Enter Bay Joker and the Hot Toys Batman, and they had such self-presence and looked so good. The only problem I had with it is there wasn't enough of them being released, and also not enough room. At that time I only had 2 Detolfs, so I had to sort of rotate my collection quite a lot. But as you can see here again, the Enter Bay Rambo, and probably I would say one of the best figures I've ever owned is the Enter Bay Battle Damage Terminator 2. By far the greatest quarter scale I've seen, and definitely one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen as well. I know there's been some issues with the flaking jacket down the years, but obviously I didn't have that because I had it quite new. And then I picked the T1000 up. But then I sort of found myself that I was running out of room, as collectors can, you know the situation with that room is king sometimes as much as money, because if you haven't got the room, what's the point of buying the figure? That's my opinion. But as you can see here, yeah, I'm starting to mix the lines up a bit with the quarter scales as well, with, you know, favourite movie, Scarface, Star Wars. Bearing in mind, Star Wars with Hot Toys was very, well, it was only DX7 there, they're the sideshows. Superman, a bit of Marvel, so it was a bit all over the place. But I changed my mind quite a lot and like to rotate my collection. So again, you can see that the Robocop's in here, and then we start getting into the dangerous zone of customs. So at the top there's the iMini-Me, Walter White. So I was starting to get to collect quite expensive figures. I mean, that was about $500 on its own. Yeah, so I mean, this is going through probably about 2014. Again, Star Wars was sort of scaled back a little bit there now, and more Marvel was coming in. Terminator, Robocop, so I was trying to pick my favourites. And then again, the custom of Russ Cole from True Detective, which is a Young Soul outfit, that was about £800. I think I sold that in the end for about £1,000. So I mean, it starts to get crazy. Same there with the Rick Grimes. That was I think it was a Tanila outfit but a Jacob Raymere head sculpt, so that was £500 just for the head sculpt. But yeah, keeping it quite clean. As you can see, and I still do that now, is I only like using, especially now, you can see at the beginning I didn't, but I like using the generic stands, so it's quite clean and you've got a bit more room. But yeah, there's James Bond up there. That's a Yunsel. That was, again, $450 for just the clothing. On the top left there, you've got the Shark City Ozark Jaws, which is my favourite film of all time. I will pick another one of those up. I love that sort of bust there. And here, yeah, I've picked up Doctor Who. See, you know, you can see my collection is all over the place. That Indiana Jones is a custom. Again, that was expensive. Star Wars is starting to creep in a little bit more now. The Predator's down there, Marty McFly. This is when I moved house, so still had 3 Detolfs, and yeah, quite the same there. But you'll see in the top shelf Star Wars, middle shelf's Marvel, then it's my TV with Doctor Who, and then the bottom's like my favourite movies. That's what I was trying to sort of convey with my collection there. And then when we go to the next slide, I get 4 Detolfs. So then it started opening up, and then again, superheroes on the top, Star Wars in the next line. Then it was TV shows where I've got the Nucky Thompson, Boardwalk Empire. That was a young Silla get. I mean, these went for mega money when I sold them, because they were only runs of like less than 30 or 40. And then the bottom shelf was favourite movies. Yeah, so, and then I think by this next stage, yeah, again, see, I've got the Ghostbusters there, which I do regret selling now, because my collection's changed a little bit more, even more since. But again, Star Wars is really starting to creep in now, and Marvel with one shelf, and then favourite movies at the bottom shelf. But those Ghostbusters were great, but a little bit oversized, and I think that was one of the reasons why I like to. I sold them, because they were a little bit oversized compared to the rest of the Hot Toys figures. Again, I think this one probably should have been a little bit before, but then the Jon Snow was in. The True Detective figures, which is one of those I do sort of regret selling, because that is my favourite TV show of all time. Season 1 with McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. They were really good figures. And then again, I keep changing it around. So the first top shelf is TV shows, Star Wars, favourite movies, and Marvel. But it's getting quite sparse now, and I think by this stage I was starting to think that I was going to change it quite a bit, and focus a little bit more on perhaps Star Wars and Marvel. And again, sorry, this keeps moving around a little bit, but again, that's with the Ghostbusters and like favourite TV shows, Marvel, that's what I was trying to do, and then Star Wars. Every now and again, I like to sort of, as most people do, is like have a dust and then change your poses and, you know, positions of where they're displayed, so you can have a little bit more of a your collection feels a little bit more fresh, if you know what I mean. That's a good advice. Now this is where it starts to go. I got rid of all of the TV and wanted to go Star Wars and Marvel. I think this is around the time of Infinity War, and I think this is when I started to work out that it's becoming far too expensive to collect 2 lines like Marvel and Star Wars. It's just too much, and I was in the buzz of Infinity War, so I wanted to collect both, but I couldn't do it. So I went back to all Star Wars, sold everything off, and then went all back to Star Wars, like I have here. So that was good. And then the problem is that I had is that I was collecting Star Wars for probably about another year, enjoying it. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. As you can see, I've got a full size, or had a full size Hannon Carbonite on the wall, which I think made the photos look great, etc. And I was really enjoying collecting all of Star Wars again, moving them around. There was the odd figure, you know, like the Praetorian Guards at the top with Kylo Ren, were great figures. to be honest, they look so good on the shelf. Same with the Royal Guards with the Emperor, but with room, you know, they're not like big characters. So, you know, if I had loads of room, I would have kept them. But I think throughout the time, I sort of sold them and tried to collect more sort of major characters. As you can see now, actually I went against my rule here, and I said that on my collection video at the beginning. I like to collect one figure per character. So this again went against my my rules, having 2 layers at the top, because obviously I've got the old Last Jedi layer and the Hoth layer, and that changed. And then, this is not a very great photo unfortunately, but Endgame came out, and then I had a little bit of a blip and then decided to collect what was out at the time, which was a lot of Infinity War. But again, about a month in, I went, what am I doing? And I'd sold loads of grails, like troopers and things that were so hard to get hold of again. So it took me a little while. So I sold that all over the show, to be honest. Around this stage, I really didn't know what I was doing, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to collect. You know, I love Star Wars, but by this time we didn't have The Mandalorian, and there wasn't a lot of OT stuff coming out at the time. Rogue One had just come out, but apart from that, it was just, you know, the sequels, which I didn't mind, to be honest. But then you know, like even this, going back to this one here, the releases started to get a lot better. Like Krennic came out, and you started to see a few more sort of cooler sort of releases. I mean, there was the new Kylo Ren, and like you say, the top ones with the prequels started to come out as well, which was fun. So yeah, I think at the moment now, I think this sort of stage here, this was sort of my favourite, where my collection has ever looked, with the cleanness and the sort of focus that I had on it. It's slightly different now. I mean, now I've got Moducases, which you'll see probably by the last one coming up. It's still not there. That was my favourite look I think I've ever had in my collection. When Grogu came in again, it doesn't go with the 1/6. I like it all clean, etc. But you know, bar that, this is my favourite sort of look. I've got a lot of work to do with the Moducases, but I'm glad I went that route because of the room, and I like the lighting, and I had a couple of Detolfs actually the back glass panels actually cracked and smashed, and scared my wife half to death one night, and she was always a little bit concerned with it. Didn't like that much glass, because they're on the Besta cabinet, so I always wanted to go somewhere. I always looked at Moducases and really liked them. Here we have the last collection photo, which is just after I received my Moducases. It looks quite different to what it does now, to be honest, which I've got now. I've added quite a few new figures, and the stands are slightly different. I've got Moducase. I got Moducase to cut the stand legs down that I got through from them, because they were too large at the back for a lot of the figures. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that soon, so I can show you what I mean. Still has a way to go, but yeah, I'm so happy with this format now. I've just got to work out what I'm going to do with what line I'm going to collect and where I'm going to sort of pose everything. But thanks for watching. You get the idea. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm quite new. Any questions, send me a PM. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.